Hi everyone, welcome to Gig Harbor, Washington, where the anchor all began. We are standing here in front of a net shed, and for those of you who don't know what a net shed is, our town is an old fishing community, and back in the day, the fishermen would come off the water and bring their boats in and bring their nets into these net sheds to be repaired and get equipped and just get a little rest off the water. So we thought, what a great analogy for the anchor where it first began is this place where women of all ages can come to gather and be together and be restored and be encouraged. So this month we are going to share an anchor moment with you. And an anchor moment is a time in your life when your faith has really been grounded and you've seen God at work for real. And we are thrilled that we are going to be able to share with you stories from women of all kinds of backgrounds and all ages, and our hope and prayer is that you would be encouraged.
Hi, I'm Andria Stevens, and I am super thankful to get to spend a few minutes with you sharing a little bit of my story and how God has shown up in some very profound ways in my life through some major storms. He has proven that he is who he says he is, and his promises are true. And so I'm excited to get to share that with you, and just to share a little bit about how I ever even first fell in love with Jesus. And so I live in Gig Harbor. I live here with my husband of 27 years, and we have 3 kids. Our oldest and his wife live in Eastern Washington, and they have a 1-year-old little girl, Haley, and so we are grandparents, and it is amazing. And but yet at the same time, totally bizarre to be a grandparent. And then we have a daughter who is a high school teacher here in Gig Harbor, and then our youngest just graduated from Gig Harbor High School and will be attending school down in Arizona in the fall. And so we are about to be empty nesters. And I'd be lying if I didn't say that we were pretty excited about it. I'm excited just to get my husband to myself for a little bit and just see what this next chapter has in store for us. So we're excited. Like I said, we live here in Gig Harbor. It's actually my hometown. It's where I grew up. I was really fortunate to grow up in a family that was great. I have parents who love each other really well, and who loved me really well growing up, and who still do. However, faith was not a part of our life growing up. It was not something we talked about a lot in our house. We didn't attend church, but I always had this curiosity about God, this curiosity about Jesus. I was very intrigued. And my sophomore year of college, I went to the University of Washington, and some girls in my sorority who I really respected invited me to this ministry there called The Inn. And I went, and can honestly say that I was captivated. That the things I was hearing and learning about Jesus were filling me up in a way that that I didn't even have words for, that I didn't know I needed. I began to realize that I had this. My husband and I have led Young Life for a long time, and in Young Life, there's kind of this language of having this God-shaped hole in our heart or in our soul, and that's what I realized that my sophomore year, that I had this God-shaped hole in my heart, in my soul, and I had been trying to fill it with things that I thought would bring me peace and would bring me joy and security and hope. But those things all failed, and that it was Jesus, that he was the piece that was missing, and he is the one that filled that hole in my heart. And I would like to say that in the 30 years since then, that it has been easy, and that I haven't ever tried to fill myself up with other things. Man, that is a daily battle. That is a daily battle. But I continually learn that He is the only one who satisfies, that He is the only one who brings hope and joy and peace. And that is a daily lesson that I'm still learning. And man, I'll tell you, after 30 years of walking with Him, that back then, as a 19, 20-year-old, I really thought that I had all of the answers. And I thought I needed all the answers and I needed to be right. And what I have learned, especially lately in these last few years, is that I am more and more okay with the mysteries of God. That I don't need to have all the answers. I know two things for sure, and that is that the Bible says I am to love God with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength, and I'm to love others as myself. Those two things. It says in the Bible that those are the most important things. When asked, that's what Jesus says. And so I'm good with that. That's where I'm at today, is I am going to live out the rest of my life trying to do those two things really well, to love God and to love others really well. That's the heart of it. And so I'm doing the best I can with that. Katie has asked that I share a time when my faith was tested and my faith was anchored. And man, I can look back and see all kinds of stories. It's hard to narrow down to just one, but since we did just celebrate the graduation of our youngest, I thought, one of the biggest trials we've had was actually his birth story. And so I thought, well, I'll go back and share a little bit of what that looked like and how God showed up for us in really profound, miraculous ways. And I share this gently and sensitively, knowing that maybe there's some of you listening who have suffered miscarriage or suffered infertility and want a baby and are not able to have one, and you've been praying. And so I know that it's hard to hear someone's story and for them to say, God provided a miracle, and you're saying, where's my miracle? I don't have an answer for why that is. But I will tell you that God is with you, and He walks with us in our suffering, and that our prayers don't always go the way that we want them to. I have lots of things in my life that I have prayed for and hoped for and prayed for a miracle that didn't go the way that we hoped. But that doesn't mean that God was not with us through it. And so this story is a time when we were walking through a really hard time and we were praying for a miracle, and I believe that we got one. See, I had multiple miscarriages and loss. We had miscarriages, we had ectopic pregnancies, and my greatest desire was to have a family, to have a big family. And there were many times where it looked like that wasn't possible. And when I was pregnant with our youngest, it was I was probably about 10 weeks pregnant. And because of my history of loss, we had to do a lot of lab work in the early stages of pregnancy to check the progress of the pregnancy. And there was one evening where I started to bleed and cramp, and I thought, I'm losing this baby, and called the doctor, and all of the lab tests indicated that yes, in fact, we were losing this baby, and I was devastated. And looked at my husband, and I just said, I can't do this again. I can't do this again. I won't survive this. And we began to pray for the health of the baby, but also I began to pray for my own heart. And in the Bible, it talks about a peace that passes understanding. And I really, over the next 2 weeks of thinking that I was miscarrying, began to have that peace. And I felt like I was going to be okay. And I didn't know what okay looked like. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know if okay was that we lost the baby. I didn't know if okay was that the baby survived. But after 2 weeks of thinking that I was miscarrying and kind of having this prolonged experience, I went in for a procedure, and the doctor, who is a believer, before doing the procedure said, I want to do an ultrasound just to rule out a couple other things. And on that ultrasound, we were able to see his little heartbeat was still there. Beyond all hope, he was there and he was okay. He was a little fighter. And so I continued on with my pregnancy. And then at about 34 weeks, one morning I thought, I don't think I have felt the baby move today. And then I started to panic, and I thought, I don't know if I felt the baby move yesterday. And I did not share this, but I, during that time, was a childbirth educator and a doula, for those of you that know what that is. So I had a lot of experience with pregnancy and with childbirth, and I knew that something was wrong, but I thought I was just, maybe I knew too much and was just thinking that something was wrong when it wasn't. And so I tried all the things: drinking the juice, laying on my side, turning on the shower. And I will tell you that it was the one time in my life where I audibly heard the voice of the Lord. Normally when I say, like, I feel like God told me, or I feel like God's telling me, it's more of just a sense in my spirit. But this was an audible voice that said, call the doctor, when I was being stubborn and I was being stupid and thinking I was embarrassed to call because they would say, oh, honey, he's just sleeping. So I called the doctor. She had me come in, and they did an ultrasound. Because she didn't like what she was hearing with the heartbeat, they sent me to the hospital for an ultrasound. And in that ultrasound, they assess the babies. They give them a score from 0, being a non-living baby, to an 8, being a totally healthy baby. And we found out later that our son's score was a 1. That the doctor who did that ultrasound said that he had about a half hour left before he would have died. And so I made it into the hospital just in time, had an emergency C-section, and he was born just a little tiny little peanut of a guy. He weighed 3 pounds, but he was healthy. And we spent 6 weeks in the NICU, and man, the NICU is not for the faint of heart. It was a daily journey of trusting, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. But I will tell you that we saw God show up in mighty, mighty ways during that time. Like I talked about before, just that peace, that assurance that I had that I was going to be okay. No matter the outcome, I was going to be okay. We saw community rally around us in ways that we had never seen before. It is one of the greatest blessings of walking with the Lord in community, is the way that people rally when a need arises. And they did. We were surrounded by people praying for us, by people cleaning our house, caring for our children. It was amazing to see. And the nurses in the NICU, they are angels sent straight from heaven. The way they cared for us and for him in that time. And, he was okay. He's now graduated from a high school. He wants to be a pastor. I knew that the Lord had great, great plans for him. And it's been amazing, an amazing gift to watch those plans come to fruition. And I don't know how we would have made it through that time if it were not for the Lord. if not for that hope, if not for the peace that he provides, man, I don't think I would have made it through that time. And that is just one example of the ways that God has seen us through time and time and time again. And so some of you may be in a dark season right now, and maybe some of you are waiting for your miracle. Maybe some of you are getting really weary because you keep praying and it doesn't seem to be happening. And I am so sorry. I don't have answers for you. I don't have words to make that better, other than to say, keep turning to Jesus. He is who he says he is. His promises are true. He works all things together for good, and he will in your life, just as he has in mine. I believe that to be true with every fiber of my being. So thank you. Thanks for listening.